everyone, and welcome back to the Nail It program. So this is the first video of the biology series, and like I said, this is for the grade 9 targeted students. So today we're going to be learning about cells. So what are cells? Cells are the building blocks of all organisms. They are the building blocks of life, and they're actually the smallest components of the level of organization in all organisms, like mammals, whether it's birds, whether it's fish or trees or fruits, whatever, every single thing has cells in them. So now we're going to talk about the types of cells. Now, there are two different types of cells that you need to know about for Gcse. The first one is eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are cells with a nucleus. They tend to be very complex in terms of their structure, and they are found in complex organisms, in multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms are organisms with a lot of cells. You also have prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are cells without a nucleus. They are simple cells with very few components and are not that complex in terms of their structure. They are unicellular organisms. What does this mean? This means that they themselves are one cell, and the one cell makes up the organism. So the most common type of cell that you do need to know about is the animal cell. Now, the animal cell, it is a eukaryotic cell. It's a complex cell and it also has a nucleus. So here are the components, as you can see. The cytoplasm. What does the cytoplasm do? It's in charge of chemical reactions. So it's a type of gel-like substance within the cell, and it's in charge of chemical reactions which occur within the cell. You also have cell membranes. What are cell membranes? Cell membrane is the thing which separates cells. It identifies the cell, gives it a shape, and it most importantly controls what goes into the cell and what comes out of the cell. So it's like a barrier in a sense. You also have a nucleus. Now, the nucleus is the main component of any cell. Or should I say any eukaryotic cell. It contains all the genetic information, which is what controls the cell, and it's very important in terms of the actual reproduction and replication process. It also controls all the activities of the cell. So it's a bit like the cell manager, to be honest. So it controls all activities of the cell. You also have your ribosome. The ribosome are, ribosomes. Ribosomes are tiny structures, and which is why I actually drew them as dots, and they are in charge of protein making. So it's in charge of this process called protein synthesis, which I will soon go through. And protein synthesis, it basically uses the genetic material, DNA, from the nucleus in order to make proteins for the body. You also finally have the mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria, it basically is in charge of respiration. It's where aerobic respiration occurs, and it uses the energy from aerobic respiration in order to process all the chemical reactions of the cell. The next type of cell we need to learn about is plant cells. Now, plant cells, they are similar to animal cells. They're also eukaryotic, but they have a few extra components. For example, they have a cell wall. The cell wall, it's made up of a tough fiber called cellulose, and it's used in order to support and strengthen the cell. You also have a vacuole. The vacuole it's a watery type of substance. It contains a watery substance called cell sap, which is made up of sugars and salts. It maintains internal pressure within the cell. You finally have chloroplasts. These chloroplasts, they are subcomponents they have a green pigment due to chlorophyll. Now, the chlorophyll is used for photosynthesis. So what it does is that it absorbs light for photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is a vital process in plants because it helps plants to get their food. This is why chloroplasts are usually found in leaf cells, because that's where the glucose and molecules of such are produced from. The next type of cell we need to know about are bacterial cells. Now, there's something different about bacterial cells. They're actually prokaryotic. Now, what does it mean again? Prokaryotic cells are cells which do not have a nucleus. No nucleus, and they are simple structures. They're usually unicellular, which is what bacteria are. They are unicellular organisms. Now, bacteria, because they don't have a nucleus, what compensates this? The chromosomal DNA and the plasmid DNA. Chromosomal DNA controls activities and replication, so it controls bacteria and cell activities and replication. So it's a bit like the main type of nucleus. You also have plasmid DNA. Plasmid DNA, it's like a type of extra piece. They're smaller loops of DNA. They're used in order to control extra processes such as resistance, drug resistance, etc. You finally have a flagellum. Now, this is a structure which kind of rotates, you can say like a propeller on a helicopter, and it helps the bacteria to move. Why does it help the bacteria to move? Why does the bacteria need to move in the first place? Because it needs to move away from harmful toxins and towards nutrients that might help it to grow, and that's beneficial to it. So that is all the structures of the bacterial cell. Now, this is all you need to know for the first section of the spec. Like I said, this is for Edexcel, but you can use it for other things like AQA as well, since most people do AQA. They are very similar, and if I did miss anything out that you want me to go through, please comment below. Thank you for watching.